It's that time of year again. Nebraska kicked off the start of their fall practice earlier this week, and we've already learned a bunch of new nuggets regarding the depth chart, the injury report, some breakout players, and then, of course, some inside information. So in today's video, I'm going to give you everything you need to know that has transpired over the last week, and then we're going to take a deep dive into last night in the Big Red preview, how that went, and who were some of the key players who showed out. So, man, we have a jam-packed episode for you today. Make sure to hit that like button if you're starting to get fired up. And hey, if you are new to the channel or just a returning viewer, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. I post a video about Nebraska football every single day, and I'm not stopping anytime soon. So if you want to join the best community here on Husker YouTube, please hit that subscribe button. It would help me out greatly. But without further ado, let's get into it. Talking about Nebraska fall practice week 1 and some of the nuggets that we have learned. Let's go to the first storyline for the Huskers, and this is the depth chart. Last night we got a sneak peek on what the starting lineup will look like versus UTEP, and let's just go to the offense first and foremost. Quarterback 1, Dylan Raiola. We'll talk about him later in this video, don't worry, and about his individual performance, but he's that guy. It's going to be official here very, very soon. This is not a real quarterback battle. Dylan Raiola is going to be the starter for the Huskers. Running back 1, like I've said all summer long, it's Emmett Johnson. He was the guy who got those first team reps last night. Gabe Irving was also the mix, Ramir Johnson as well, but expect Emmett Johnson to be that guy. At wide receiver, there are 3 to 4 guys who are likely going to start. Of course, there's only 3 spots available. Jamal Banks, like I've said, is that number 1 wide receiver. No doubt about it. He showed out last night. Again, we'll get to that later in the video. Isaiah Nair is that number 2. And then number 3 is Jalen Lloyd. And then number 4 is Janiron Bonner. Man, has he played well over the last couple weeks. And once again, we will get to him later in the video. Tight end 1, Thomas Fidone, no surprise there. And then the offensive line, Turner Corcoran is getting the start at left tackle as of right now over Teddy Prohaska. Left guard is Justin Evans-Jenkins. That will not change. Ben Scott at center. That will not change. Micah Mazuka looks like he will start at right guard. And then Bryce Benhart, of course, at right tackle. Not a surprise there. So that looks to be the starting lineup for the Huskers on offense. And then on defense, D-line, again, that's same old. We got Nash, Ty Robinson, Jamari Butler. Same thing there as last year. Linebackers, the starters last night there, John Bullock inside, okay. Buddha Wright as well, interesting. And then MJ Sherman at that jack position. So Stephon Thompson last night did not get the start for the Huskers, should be noted. And then the cornerback room, a lot of injuries in there. We'll get to that in my next storyline. But the 2 starters at corner were Mario Buford, true freshman, and Jeremiah Charles. And then at the safety spots, Isaac Gifford, Deshaun Singleton, and the Malcolm Hartzog. So speaking of the injuries, let's talk about the guys who were out yesterday. Well, the reason why Mario Buford and Jeremiah Charles were starting at corner, it was because Tommy Hill was out with an injury along with some other injuries in that room. Should not be too worried about that Tommy Hill injury, though. It just seemed like a deal where they're not going to risk it. They didn't want to put him out there an extra day. So he should be ready to go by next week. But a couple other injuries in that room. Marquez Buford was out last night along with Princewell Uman-Mielen. I expect him to start at jack over MJ Sherman, but MJ Sherman got the start as of last night. And then the big one was honestly on the offensive line. Henry Latufsky has been dealing with a calf issue all summer long, and it looks like he might not even be ready to go by the season opener. And if that is the case, Micah Mazuka, here you go, man. You are the right guard, no doubt about it. There's not even going to be a battle for that spot. So interesting development there, Henry Latufsky. And then we did get an injury last night during the practice. Roger Gradney, true freshman member of the secondary, went down on a kick return. And he had to be carted off the field. So not a good development there. Again, I don't want to speculate on, how long he's going to be out with an injury, but it's not too much of a loss given the fact that he probably wasn't going to play as a true freshman. Also, Jalen Lloyd did not play last night. Want to put that out there. He just had a tightness in his knee. Again, not really a big deal at all. He will be ready to go next week. So, quick injury report there. And hey, I want to talk about the punt returns on the depth chart. Forgot to get to that before we get to some of my breakout players. But let's go to the punt returns real quick. This has been a big storyline, honestly, a positional battle that nobody's talking about. Who's going to return punts for the Huskers this year? There were 4 guys who did the job last night. The favorite in the room, Isaiah Garcia-Castaneda, was returning punts. Of course, we have Ja'Cory Barney, true freshman wide receiver, Syer Wright, and then Emmett Johnson. Those 4 are going to be in contention to return punts for the Huskers. Again, it's interesting. Everybody wants to return kicks. Nobody wants to return punts. It's a lot harder, and for that reason, expect one of those 4 to do the job in about a couple weeks. But I bet it'll be Isaiah Garcia-Castaneda when it's all said and done. But let's go to my breakout players. This is the big storyline, guys. This is why you click on the video. The breakout players throughout week 1 of fall camp. I've got 5 guys who played well, not just last night, but what I've heard over the last couple of days since fall camp began. Number 1, Ja'Cory Barney, once again, is my number 1 breakout. True freshman wide receiver. This guy's the real deal. He's just that rare mix of speed and explosiveness, has that ability to go up for 50-50 jump balls, really good route running, and he performed at an elite level last night. Now, the only thing I'm concerned about when it comes to Ja'Cory Barney is that he's small, and that's what you'd expect from a true freshman wide receiver. He doesn't have a bunch of muscle. He's not the biggest guy in the world. But I'm going to tell you this, if he knows the playbook, if he has good conditioning, he will get on the field, and he just keeps making plays. He has a knack for making plays, and Matt Rhule will not keep a guy like him on the sideline. Ja'Cory Barney with an impressive week 1. Once again, not just last night, but I've heard rumblings over the last couple weeks that he's playing at a very good level for a true freshman. But let's go to another true freshman who, this one, I'm going to pat myself on the back a little bit. This is Larry Tarver, man. I have hyped up Larry Tarver all offseason. That's been my favorite member of the secondary as a true freshman. Again, everybody's hyping up Mario Buford or Jeremiah Charles. Like, watch out. I'm saying watch out for Larry Tarver. And last night, they went through 1v1 drills, wide receivers versus corners. And Larry Tarver, man, he stood his ground. He probably played the best out of any of those corners last night. A very impressive kid, again, coming out of Miami, Florida. Watch out for Larry Tarver to get in the mix for some legit playing time this year. And once again, a guy I've been hyping up since March. So, love Larry Tarver. He will be in the mix. Now, let's go to a guy who's a little bit more of a proven commodity, but he has just took his game to another level over the last week. And this is Deshaun Singleton. People forget that he earned a single digit last year. He's a dog. He is a dog, one of the hardest hitting safeties in the country. He's a leader on this defense. He holds the other guys in that room to a certain standard. And yeah, man, he's just a veteran. A guy who's honestly going to be in the mix to go to the NFL this year. People do not give him enough love, and yeah, he's going to take another big jump, completely healthy after a season-ending injury last year. Let's go back to the offense here, and this is another guy who's flown under the radar but has had a great week. And this is Janiran Bonner. So I mentioned him as being that 4th wide receiver right now. They moved him back to his traditional position. I've said in the past, they should have never moved him to tight end or fullback. He's a traditional wide receiver, but he's a utility knife. You can put him anywhere. You can put him in the slot. You can put him at wide receiver X, wide receiver Z. You could put him in the backfield. And Janiran Bonner, he had a great night last night, really good hands. But he's a name that I just keep hearing in fall conversations, that he continues to make plays, continues to work hard, and he's going to thrive in this new Marcus Satterfield and Glenn Thomas offense. So, again, another guy who gets overshadowed by Jalen Lloyd and Malachi Coleman and, of course, the veterans in that room, Isaiah Nayor and Malcolm Banks, or not Malcolm Banks, Jamal Banks, but Janiran Bonner, man, he had a very good week for the Huskers, and watch out for him. Now, let's go to the offensive line for my 5th and final breakout players. And this is kind of a toss-up between a couple guys, but I'm going to go with Turner Corcoran. He's really got the hype over the last couple of days. A couple articles were written about him and how he's battling Teddy Prohaska for that left tackle spot. Now, Turner Corcoran's got a lot of flack from the fan base. He has not played well throughout his career here, but hopefully he finally turns that corner and plays to that level that we know he can. I mean, this is a guy who was a borderline 5-star recruit coming out of high school. Again, we know that he can play at an elite level. So those are my breakout players throughout the first week of fall camp. Let's go to my fourth and final storyline, and I have to talk about this, guys. The quarterback battle. Let's just talk about all the quarterbacks in that room. Starting off with Dylan Raiola. He's that guy. He's quarterback one. This isn't a battle. It's a formality at this point. Last night, Dylan Raiola showed everybody that he's going to be not only the starter for Nebraska, he's going to be a darn good one. Right off the bat, they were going through their scrimmage, 11 on 11. He had a beautiful back shoulder fade ball to Jamal Banks in the end zone. Again, only where he could have went up and caught that ball. Just beautiful touch on that. But really, it's not just the athletic department that impressed you about Dylan Raiola. It's his composure. It's his leadership. He does everything right for that reason. I mean, I can't really talk about him anymore because I've already said everything you need to know. He's going to be special, and I can't wait to see him on Saturdays. But the real storyline is how our depth played in that quarterback room. I want to get to Heinrich Hoiberg because he had another tough day, man. And I always get flack on my take on Heinrich Hoiberg because for some reason, Nebraska fans love this guy. And I get it. I understand. I root for Heinrich Hoiberg. He's a kid coming out of Kearney. He grew up a Husker fan. He wants the best for this program. But like I've said all offseason, and like you saw last year, Heinrich Hoiberg is not a traditional quarterback. He's not good enough to play for the Huskers. And last night was a rough night for Heinrich. In his first scrimmage drive, he threw an interception. It was a low ball, got batted on the defensive line, and went up for an interception. He threw a couple other picks. He had a couple overthrows. A lot of times when the pocket breaks down or he doesn't find his first progression, he scrambles. The same thing we saw last year. Now, with that being said, he was a little bit improved just with his progressions and with his pocket presence, but still not at a Big Ten level. And for that reason, it's disappointing, man. I really wanted him to go out there and prove some people wrong and maybe make this a quarterback battle, but last night was not a good performance. But let's go to the guy who did have a good day, who I believe is the second best quarterback on this roster, not named Dylan Raiola, and Jalen Gramstad was phenomenal last night. Now, what's interesting about him is he's not a very flashy quarterback. He's actually really small. It's at 6 foot tall, less than 200 pounds. But, man, is he a smart signal caller, man. He always found the open wide receiver last night. Very quick progressions, really good pocket presence. I mean, he just looks like a veteran in that quarterback room. He's constantly finding the open man, extending plays. And for that reason, I really hope this guy is our quarterback too, because I understand that Heinrich Hoiberg has been in this offense longer, but Gramstad is more of a quality quarterback. He's more of a game manager. And honestly, he's a lesser risk to put him out on the field than Heinrich is. So Jalen Gramstad had a really good practice. He outperformed Heinrich by, it wasn't even close. It wasn't even close. Gramstad should be that quarterback too, but I doubt he will be just because Hoiberg knows the playbook a little bit better and he's on scholarship and Gramstad is not. But let's go to Daniel Kaelin, the last guy in the quarterback room. He ranks as my fourth best quarterback. That should not be a surprise to most people. Of course, true freshman. He's going to have those growing pains. He threw a couple picks. Just everything was a little bit of a mess last night for Kaelin. He's going to be redshirted. He's going to be a good quarterback, guys. Nobody's overreacting about Kaelin just yet. We shouldn't. He's struggling. It is what it is. But he's going to be good after, next year, the year after that. Once he learns his playbook a little bit better, once he gets up to the speed of the game, he should be a quality quarterback in the Power 5 ranks. So a little bit of an update there on the quarterback battle, what's going on. Again, Heinrich Hoiberg, I think is going to be that quarterback too. I hope he turns a corner, but guys, I understand the fan base loves him. I understand that. And because I always get comments, Wilson, why are you so negative on Hoiberg? I'm not negative. I'm just being realistic because last year he graded out as one of the worst quarterbacks in Power 5, and we haven't seen any improvement. for that reason, I do want Jalen Gramstead to start. But overall, you know what I want? I want Dylan Raiola to be the guy and never get hurt. So I know we're all rooting for that. All right, guys, those have been the big nuggets throughout week 1 of Nebraska fall practice. Let me know, did you go to the Big Red preview last night? What was your big takeaway? And again, let me know that down below in the comment section. Of course, if you made this far in the video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. I want to formally thank all of you guys for 5,000 subscribers. It's ridiculous, man. Absolutely ridiculous. I can't even believe it when I just said it out of my mouth. I made it a point of emphasis to bring you guys the best Nebraska football content this offseason. In the last 70 days, get this, I've made 100 videos talking about Nebraska football in the peak of the offseason. So I want to thank you guys for sticking with me. And it's all grass, no breaks. We're just keeping this thing rolling. So thank you guys once again. Go Big Red, go Matt Rhule, and see you in the next one.